from the shadows of the National Palace
to the muddy trenches of politics. This is La Posilga, the pigsty of dirty politics. Greetings.
My pigs, welcome to La Posilga, the pigsty of politics. The only corner of the internet where we're not afraid to roll in the mud to dig up the filth that others want to mask with perfume. Welcome, my dear pigs. Capitalists, peddle workers, and the occasional infiltrator from the welfare department who watches us to report back to Banagatos. You already know that this is the only place where the truth stinks as bad as Pantitlán Metro at rush hour. We swallow it gladly. I'm Luis Berman, ready to wallow in the filth of national politics, because if there's one thing this country has plenty of, it's raw material. First, let's dissect a topic that's got more than one person in the palace, with a lump in their throat and cold sweat running down their backs. Get ready, because this smells like crap, and like a DEA office, because that stench of betrayal comes straight from the glass offices that the so-called left in this country loves so much. And on the other hand, hold on to your wallets, but hold them tight, because today one of the topics isn't that they want to steal our future. They already did that a while ago, but now they want us to pay for their farewell party. With what we have left in our piggy bank, here we serve you the truth, raw, acerbic, and with a touch of wisdom and sarcasm, so the hypocrisy doesn't hit you so hard. Let's begin. Do you remember Alfonso Romo? Yes, that character who seemed straight out of a financial thriller series, the snake charmer of the markets, who professed eternal love for private investment, while his boss was declaring war on the power elite. Well, it turns out that the silent operator, the man who spoke the language of greenbacks while the others mumbled 70s-era slogans, today he is at the center of a rumor that isn't just any old gossip. It's said, rumored, and speculated that Don Pancho might be sporting a new title, protected witness in the United States. Romo was not a politician of rallies or sweat on his brow. He was the bridge, the one in charge of telling big capital to relax. The old man doesn't bite. I'm the one controlling the numbers here, but oh, surprise, the bridge turned out to be made of glass, and it seems it is already cracked. Do you remember when they told us there was no longer a power elite? How cute. The strategy was masterful to end the mafia. They put in the one who knew best how it worked. What is circulating today with the force of a hurricane? Is it that Romo was handed over, or is he under the scrutiny and custody of the authorities? American authorities. Why is this important? Because if Romo talks, a wall falls, the whole building of honesty collapses. Brave Romo. He was the living proof of the contradiction of the fourth transformation. An elite businessman working for an anti-elite movement. But as we well know, in this pigsty in politics, bridges are burned when the fire of investigation starts licking at the foundations. The gentleman seems to have discovered that the air in Texas is much more breathable than the smog in Mexico City. When you have some federal agents from the U.S. checking your bank statements, let's not act surprised. The name Romo had already been appearing on certain international financial radars for, let's say, unclear transactions linked to financial institutions close to his circle. And we already know how Americans are when they see a stain on a financial record. They don't use niceties, they use a court order. They just shut down his business vector, a brokerage firm, remember? What's interesting is the deathly silence of the main figure in politics. Is silence a sign of health, or is it fear or strategy? Romo vanished from the public radar, stopped being the friendly face for investors, and became a ghost. According to rumors or well-informed sources, he's singing louder than a tenor. At the Met in New York for months, Romo's name disappeared from the public scene. Some thought he was meditating in an ashram, others that he simply got tired of eating tlayudas at cabinet meetings, but the reality is harsher. There are financial institutions linked to his circle that started setting off alarms on monitoring dashboards in the United States. And you know how Uncle Sam is. He doesn't care if you're the favored president in office or if you pray every night for national sovereignty. If the money moved creatively across their borders, they're going to invite you to a very unfriendly conversation. The story rocking the country today is that Romo is no longer on the official radar because he decided it's better to be an informant who's alive than a scapegoat locked up for a movement that's being sold as the end of privileges and a break with the past. Having one of its financial architects negotiating with foreign authorities is like the Pope setting up a casino in the Vatican. If this rumor is confirmed, the question will no longer be whether they're the same as before, but rather which of them will stay behind to turn off the lights. The United States doesn't play politics when it comes to its financial laws. When they move forward, they do it with the subtlety of a steamroller. And what if Romo decided that orange prison uniforms doesn't suit him? He's surely offering information that's worth its weight in gold or in state secrets. What entertains us the most here in the pigsty is watching how their little act of moral superiority falls apart. If Romo talks, and believe me, this man has more stories than the 1001 Nights of corruption. What's going to collapse isn't just his reputation, which was always flimsy, but the entire narrative of the Fourth. How do you explain that your star operator, the one who knew the ins and outs of the deals involving private investment, is singing in a U.S. prosecutor's office? If Romo is the witness, who is the accused? Place your bets, my little pigs, because the stench goes all the way to the top. Notice carefully, in the silence of the palace, there isn't a claim of a conservative attack, there isn't a support video, there's a chilling silence in the politics of this stable. When someone stops being useful and becomes a danger, do they get the silent treatment or the law of forgetting? But Alfonso Romo isn't forgotten that easily. His fingerprints are on the contracts, on the negotiations of the big projects, and on that fragile balance that kept the country afloat. Meanwhile, the official narrative focused on dividing, wondering if the bridge crossed to the other side of the border to save its own skin. Get ready for the tsunami of filth that's coming. Anyway, on another note, do you remember that phrase, "the people are wise"? Well, it seems that for the fourth transformation, the people are not only wise, but also a source of non-repayable, interest-free credit, and above all, no right to complain. It turns out that in the Senate, those so-called heroes of the nation who get paid as if they knew how to read just approved the blessed law, the promotion of investment in strategic infrastructure. Sounds fancy, doesn't it? It almost sounds like something that would help the country, but here at La Posilga, we like to take the lipstick off the pig. The real translation is, give me your pension so I can see if my toy train finally works. In other words, the big heist in the name of sovereignty. It turns out that Morena and his gang of crooks had a bright idea, probably powered by coal energy, just to keep up the tradition. Since public investment fell 28% in the last year, a little technical detail, surely the fault of the neoliberal period or some intergalactic conspiracy. They decided that the best way to reactivate the economy is to get their hands on the pension funds, something that during the old man's administration, Patas Miatas always denied they would do. We're talking about the fact that now they will be able to access a percentage of the savings of more than 73 million Mexicans. What a dirty move. How generous they are with other people's money. There are 6 trillion pesos just sitting there, waiting for you to retire, so you can buy yourself a box of cookies and your medicine. But the government says no, it's better to invest them in strategic projects. So it doesn't hit you so hard. These bastards have come up with a fancy name for the embezzlement. Pay close attention so the robbery doesn't look so bad. They've created something called special purpose vehicles. It sounds like a spaceship, but they're actually financial structures so that the government, companies, and even cooperatives, because now it turns out we're all entrepreneurs, can get involved in investing in infrastructure projects. And here's where the best part of the comedy comes in. The permanent law will allow the government to start awarding contracts for projects without having all the money. It's like if I went to the dealership to get a Mercedes and told the salesman I don't even have enough for the registration. Just sign it because my aunt with the pensions will lend me the money. A stroke of financial genius that could only occur to someone who's never had to stretch a paycheck. You might be wondering, and rightfully so, where is my money going, Chema? What are they going to use my sacred retirement savings for? Well, get ready for the excitement. They mention the Mexico-Querétaro train, which at this rate, man, will reach Mars before that train reaches its destination, and various energy projects. But the real fear, the one that makes us break out in a cold sweat, is that they end up injecting that money into monuments to the will of these bastards. The Maya train, the IFA, or the Dos Bocas refinery. Projects that, according to experts, are about as profitable as a corn snack stand in the middle of the desert. If those projects don't make money, and believe me, they're not, who do you think is going to lose? The senator who passed the law? Of course not. You're the one who takes the loss, dear worker, in the returns on your retirement fund. The experts, those party poopers who actually know how to do the math, warn that infrastructure is a long-term investment with low liquidity. In terms we can understand, in the pigsty, your money will stay buried in concrete and rebar for decades. And if the return drops by just 1%, your final pension could be reduced by up to 20%. So get ready, because if you thought you were going to retire to watch soap operas, now you might have to keep selling gelatin cups until you're 95 to make up for the strategic investment of this bunch of bastards who govern us. Well, that's how things are. As of today, my pigs and the silent operator could be the noisy informant. Is this the start of the end of the transformation fairy tale? Or will they come out tomorrow and say that Romo is a traitor and they never really knew him? Place your bets, but keep your savings under the mattress. Couldn't have said it better, because when these pieces move, the whole board shakes. Alfonso Romo, the man who dreamed of being the czar of the economy, today might simply be the leading voice of American justice. Funny how life takes twists and turns when money and politics kiss on the lips and then bite their own tongue. And on the other hand, the government no longer knows where to get more money to keep feeding the monster of public spending, and now they're coming for your piggy bank. After all, who needs a decent pension when we have sovereignty and some trains that go 10 kilometers per hour? Who needs a decent pension? I'm sorry to remind the chimpanchiros of what I've told you more than once, and I'll say it again. The first ones to suffer the consequences of the bad decisions of the fourth transformation will be you. We're heading toward Venezuela and fast, and there you have it. Once again, I haven't been wrong. They're going to screw you out of your money, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not. Congratulations, croqueteros. This is what happens when you vote with your gut and not with reason, when social resentment and envy speak for you. You were told, you were warned, but you just said we were talking because we had lost privileges, that it hurt us because now we were actually going to pay taxes. Because of 1,001 stupid reasons, there you have it. You've already messed up the country, your own money, and your family, at least for the next 2 generations. Enjoy what you voted for. I'll say goodbye before some sensitive public servant comes after me. Keep questioning, keep doubting, and above all, don't let them sell you trinkets as if they were gold bars. Here in this space, we keep digging into the ground to see what worms come out. Subscribe, like, share this mess, and remember the pigsty, the pigpen of politics. Even though we're all dirty, at least we're not hypocrites. I'm Louis Sperman. I'll read your comments. See you in the next round.
Goodbye. This is the pigsty, the pigpen of politics, with Chemarano, pigpen of